going through chiropractic school, I thought I had a pretty good knowledge of how the body worked. Being a golfer, I thought I knew how the golf swing worked, and it blew my mind. Like, I learned stuff that I don't know how I didn't know. And then when I started implementing it into my own life and what I was doing, it changed everything for me.
Hey, Dr. Chris Kubels here with the Health Heroes Podcast, and today we are in downtown Denver with Dr. Jason Kroese of 5280 Chiropractic. So thanks for being on the show, Jason.
Appreciate you having me.
So we were just chatting, and you have some interesting stories. I want to back up a little bit, and I want to ask you, can you talk about your chiropractic story and how you initially got into chiropractic? Because it seems like your own story has had a big influence on some of the things you've done as a chiropractor.
Huge influence on me. So I started in undergrad. I always liked school. I liked going through it. I was always interested in the human body, just had a huge fascination, and I wanted to be a neurosurgeon, and that was kind of my goal. I was going to go to med school.
Neurosurgeon, what was your interest there?
I thought...
This is why you were in college.
While I was in undergrad, I just thought the nervous system was the most fascinating part of the body. I thought the brain was fascinating, and I thought that that's what the coolest thing in medicine was. So that's what I wanted to do, and that's what I wanted to be a part of. And I was doing my undergrad classes, doing my biology, chemistry, rolling through, and somebody had told me, you need to go shadow. You need to see what type of neurosurgeon you want to be. What do you want this to look like? And so I started trying to link up. It was really difficult to get these guys on the phone. It was hard to find anything. And finally I started getting to a couple people, and I went in and shadowed, and it was very stressful. These guys did not look healthy. They looked older than they were on their bios. I had looked them up, and I just got that feeling that something was not good here. And I left. I shadowed 3 different people, and it never left me feeling good. And I ironically was going in to get adjusted. I was playing golf in college, and I had an injury, so I was going in to get adjusted at a chiropractor, and this guy that I was seeing was just so happy, and he looked healthy, and he looked like he was having fun, and all of his patients looked like they were having fun, and it was just, there was so much energy there. And I asked him, I said, do you like your job? And he's like, I have the greatest job in the world. This is the most amazing thing anybody could ever do. And he said it to me like that, and I kind of thought on it, and I was like, well, why don't I do that? Like, that's what I should do. And I went back and I went to school. I told my advisor, hey, I think I'm going to be a chiropractor. And he stops and he goes, that is absolutely not what you want to do. You don't want to be a chiropractor. Like, no, full stop. I'm not going to let you.
Your advisor was a teacher.
He was a teacher. He was a biology teacher. And he was like, no, you do not want to do that. And
Why was that? Like, what was his thing?
I don't know. I think there was this ego about like the medical profession, and I don't think they had a lot of people going into neurosurgery, and I think I was in a small school, and I think he liked that I was going down that route.
So I went to Buena Vista, not too far.
Yeah.
A small school, I mean, that's a big thing. People don't realize getting into medical schools can be challenging, and when students are looking at it, if they can say we get this percentage of students or this into med school, that makes them look really good to recruits.
100% agree with it. And I think there was just an error there. And my personality, I've always kind of gone against the grain. And when somebody tells me I can't do something, I kind of like to see if I maybe can do it.
Like most chiropractors.
So I went and shadowed, and I started driving to I grew up in Iowa, so there's chiropractors everywhere. Chiropractic started in Iowa. Yeah. And so I went to every tiny town. I went and stopped at all of these different chiropractors. I probably got adjusted by at least 100 chiropractors. I would just show up at their office, ask if I could shadow, ask if I could meet them, ask if I could get adjusted. And all of these guys were happy. There's a couple weirdos in the group, but like for the most part, these guys were just all having fun. And I loved what they did. And I kind of just decided I'm going to be a chiropractor. I'm not going where I was going, and this is what I'm going to do. And
you said you were a golfer in college.
Yes, sir.
And you mentioned to me that you had some back issues and you were getting chiropractic care. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. So, and the interesting part of this story that really kind of opened me up to chiropractic was I had some lower back injuries, just playing lots of golf, lots of rotations, this kind of stuff. So I was getting adjusted as most patients do. my back hurt, I'm going to go get adjusted. And then once it's done hurting, I'm out, I'm done, right? Well, I had really bad outdoor allergies, which as a golfer does not work very good. Like,
especially in springtime and not when you're probably in season.
100%. And debilitating type stuff. Like, I had seen every specialist. We'd gone all over the state. We'd gone to other states to try to get help. I'd taken all the testing, all the prick stuff, and nothing worked. So I would go play a college golf meet, and I would take like 3 Allegra, 3 Claritin, and 3 Zyrtec all at the same time to try to not have a headache for 4 hours. And I just tried to not have a headache for 4 hours and make it through and do my thing, and I was trying to compete. Well, when I was getting adjusted, I had forgotten medication. I went out and played, and I had no headache. And it was the first time I can ever remember that happening. Yeah. And then, like most people, I go, I don't know what this is coming from. I don't know where this is. The only thing I'm doing is getting adjusted, but like it can't be that. That can't have anything to do with it. So I quit going, and I stopped, and all of my headaches started coming back. And then I go, okay, maybe this is something. So I went back in, started getting adjusted again. Headaches went away. And finally I pulled the chiropractor aside and I said, does this have anything to do with my allergies? And he points to a chart like one of these here. And he says, well, absolutely. This area of your spine that we're adjusting can affect that. And I kind of yelled at him. I'm like, you could have told me this. This has been ruining my entire life. Mm-hmm. And you had the answer. And I had no idea. I'm in your office. And I'm 20 years old at this point, and I was yelling at this doctor, like, why did you not tell me this? And that was 19, 20 years old. I have not taken a medication in my life since that very day for anything ever.
It's interesting. So I think you had a similar experience to me. Well, I have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
So you're in college, you're a college golfer. You obviously have an athletic training team, probably had a PT on staff possibly. Did anyone on your like sports med team, whatever, in college ever mention chiropractic to you?
Never.
No. I had a similar experience. I hurt my neck wrestling in college. I always say they cooked me, they froze me, they drugged me. So I did pain meds, ice, stim, worked on me, but no one mentioned chiropractic. And my wrestling coach was a big proponent of chiropractic. Of actually 4 guys I went to wrestle with became chiropractors. But he was like, hey, you're going to go see my chiropractor. And they were like, all right, whatever. They were like poo-pooing it and were like against it, which was crazy to me.
Crazy.
But now that I look at them, so I was just curious if anyone on your like athletic training team ever mentioned chiropractic.
Never heard it once. The blessing in disguise, though, was I grew up in a small farm town in Northwest Iowa. And I think at the time there was probably 6,000 people that lived there. So on the smaller side, but decent sized for Northwest Iowa. And I think there might have been 10 or 12 chiropractors in a town of 6,000 people. So it was pretty normal where I grew up. Like, hey, you got something, you go check out a chiropractor and you go see, if they can do something for you. So I grew up, I remember vividly as like a 5-year-old having torticollis and having my neck stuck and going to a chiropractor and my mom taking me and doing that kind of stuff. So where I grew up, it was a little bit more normal just because there was so much of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, nobody on the college, nobody on the athletic team, none of that kind of stuff. I had to kind of figure it out on my own.
And then my original experience kind of, I think, was similar to yours, where I went in when I was hurt, was bothering me. If I wasn't hurt, I wouldn't go. But there really wasn't much of a consult education. I'm curious, do you ever think about your experience there compared to like what your experience is like with your patients?
Every day.
How they practice and like what difference do you think that is, and how that doctor practices and how you practice? Like, how is that similar or different, do you think?
First of all, I think he was doing what he kind of knew and what he was trained. And I think he did a really, really good job. And I'm happy for him the way he practiced. But I have it to this day, I still think about not knowing what that could have done for me and how much time that kind of cost me. And so every single first visit that I do with every single new patient, I make sure at least one time that we're going to talk something about how their spine affects their nervous system or something about how it's going to affect how their body works. And we're not just going to talk about pain or just going to talk about the joint in their spine. We're going to tie it back to the nervous system, and I do that with every single new patient that I've ever had.
What's interesting is your initial interest was in being a neurosurgeon because of the nervous system, and a lot of people think chiropractors are bone doctors, but you really spend most of your time studying neurology.
100%.
Because it's how the skeletal system protects the neurology, which is why it's important, because the neurology is the master control system. Obviously, if you influence the spine, you're influencing the neurology, which controls everything. So
Exactly.
in a roundabout way, you're directly working with and impacting the nervous system with every patient you work on.
And in hindsight, I know it's exactly what was supposed to happen, and the things that kind of fell into place in my life brought me to where I am and what I'm doing. And it was definitely like a God's plan moment where things just happen the way they're supposed to.
Yep. Awesome. And then being a college athlete and being a golfer, you went through, there's a training specifically for golf and chiropractic. By the way, do you know what percent of the golfers on the PGA Tour have a chiropractor?
I don't know off the top of hand, but almost all of them.
At one point, it was 100%.
I think it is.
Like
yes.
Tiger was actually like, when he was graduating Stanford, he was in the parades, promoting chiropractic.
100%.
But so talk about the specific training you had related to golf and with your golf background and how that's really unique towards people that like do that.
So I went to, it's a place called the Titleist Performance Institute. It was out when I did the training, it was out in Oceanside, California.
Still is. I think
still is. Okay.
It actually worked for them for a year or so.
Perfect. Yeah, and when I took it, it was the initial founders that were teaching the class, and it was just fascinating. And going through chiropractic school, I thought I had a pretty good knowledge of how the body worked. Being a golfer, I thought I knew how the golf swing worked, and it blew my mind. Like, I learned stuff that I don't know how I didn't know. And then when I started implementing it into my own life and what I was doing, it changed everything for me, and like just a mind-blowing moment. And now I get to use that stuff to help my patients and the golfers that come to see me learn to play better, learn to play less injured, learn to work better. And if you watch golf on TV, you watch it, they're talking about it on almost every show, because all of these guys are going to see Greg and Dave to learn this stuff. And it's the missing piece for a lot of people to go from being pretty good to being excellent.
What's interesting about that is, although someone that was on your path of being a chiropractor, you're already you were a high level, you're a college golfer. So if you golf in college, your expertise and knowledge is way beyond your average weekend golfer.
Exactly.
And yet there was a ton you didn't know that you learned. And so my point is, it's a lot of times you go see people that are generalists, but even you may be professional or something, you may not have an expertise at a super high level of niche. So sometimes people need to realize that they don't always understand.
Exactly. 100% correct.
So you went to chiropractic school, you completed that, you're from Iowa. You're from Iowa, but you didn't go to Palmer. You went to Parker.
Yes.
Reason for that?
Yeah. So
was it just I want to get out away from home?
There was a little bit of that. I had grown up in a small town, and I knew that I was connected in this small town, and I knew if I went to Palmer in Davenport, I went and did the tour there. I went to the Minneapolis school, and then I went to Dallas, and I knew if I went to Palmer, I was going to end up back at the same place I started, and I didn't know if that's what I wanted to do, and I wanted to at least move away and see if I wanted to go back and kind of test it out a little bit.
I figured that because
I
grew up in small town Nebraska, and I went to school in Iowa, and I could have went to Palmer, but I went to Minneapolis. So I wanted to live in the city.
Yep.
And I just wanted to get away and do something different for a while.
Exactly.
And then you ended up in Colorado eventually.
In Colorado, yes, sir.
So did you meet your wife when you were down there?
I met my wife in chiropractic school. She was not a chiropractor. She was working in Dallas, and we met. And side note, I had done 9 months in New Zealand, kind of at the end of my college career. I did a semester, and then I stayed there for a while.
The chiropractic school at the school there in New Zealand?
Or you just... At the end of my undergrad. So okay. I did my last semester as a semester abroad.
So where at in New Zealand?
A place called Piha, which is west of Auckland. It was a surf town on the North Island.
I just, I went to Australia and New Zealand for about 3 weeks. Okay. 2023, right before I went there to hook up with Scully Care, and then we went to New Zealand on our way back, and God, we want to go back.
Yeah, it's the most beautiful country, and I went for a semester, and then I stayed. I didn't come home, and then I was going to start chiropractic school, so I finally had to come home, so I was enrolled and registered. I went and did chiropractic school, and I kind of went with the intention of I was going to move back to New Zealand after I'd been there. And I met my wife, and that kind of changed my trajectory, where I said, I don't know that I can move across the planet. So bailed on that And then I was going to I was looking at where we were trying to go, and I was helping a friend find a job that I was interning with, and we were thinking about moving to Colorado, and I found this ad for this office, 5280 Chiropractic in downtown Denver, and there was a chiropractor that was working it. They were needing help quickly because they were growing, and I kind of just thought, hey, I can go learn what they do before I open my own practice. Like, let me go see what this looks like. And 15 years later, we're sitting in this office.
Wow, that's fascinating. I think when I was visiting New Zealand, if it was not so far away, I think that would be a great place to live.
100%.
I'm curious. Like, I told my wife when I was there, my perception was, even like on like the airlines, I perceived the people there, they seemed really, really friendly.
The most friendly.
Super nice.
They're proud of their country. They're proud of their history and heritage. They're healthy, which I always thought was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I had a moment where I was hiking out along the ocean, going up and down the mountains on a kayaking trip, and I got passed by a lady hiking, and she's a little old lady, and I asked her, and I said, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you? And like, I was 21 years old, and I thought I was in great shape and all this kind of stuff. And she goes, I do mind you asking. And she kind of snapped back at me. And then she turned around and she said 88, and she took off. And that's just how they live their life, and that's how they do stuff. So I love the people, I stayed multiple nights not knowing where we were going to stay or what we were going to do, and had people at a restaurant or people out in the community that said, well, hey, you can stay at our house. And they just invited us in, didn't have to do a hotel, didn't have to do a hostel or anything like that. And that's how the people are down there.
Yeah, we were there for a while. I remember we did this wine and food tour on those what's the town?
Christchurch? Auckland?
Auckland. There's like a little island you can go out
Yes.
to.
Yep.
You can go around. But I remember like the New Zealand's known for, is it Pinot Noir, the white one? What am I thinking of? The famous one.
They do Rieslings, and then they do. Is it Pinot Grigio?
Pinot. No, I know I can't think of it, but they were out, and I was like surprised. But they said, well, at the wineries, these are small. Whenever something is ready, we don't stock it. We're not like these huge wineries. Like people come through, and like whatever's in season, it's gone.
That's what they do. Exactly. Such a cool culture.
Excellent. So anyway, next time I go there, because we definitely plan to go back, we want to visit the South Island. I'll be giving you a call.
I'll link you up. I got all the details.
Yeah,
I got you.
And luckily now that it was Scully Care, I could make it a business expense. So
perfect. Even better.
Yeah.
Even better.
But then you came back here, was it 2011? Is that what you told me?
2011, I started. I graduated chiropractic school. I went to Costa Rica for a week, came back Sunday night, and I started here working as an associate on Monday morning.
Wow.
So
been here ever since.
So
you guys are right here down by 16th Street Mall, which is a different environment than a lot of practices. What is unique and different about being right here in downtown, right by 16th Street Mall? Like, how does that influence your practice? And is there anything, what's the demographic of like people you serve? Because I'm guessing it's people that work around here.
Yeah, very, very different than almost all other chiropractic offices, in that a lot of our patients are either coming in and commuting here. They don't live where we are. Or some people live down here. That's becoming more and more popular. But most of our people are commuting. They're working in office buildings, and they're down here for the day. So they're here Monday to Friday or some version of that. They're not here on the weekends. They're not around. And then the other really interesting thing is they don't have their families here. So their families live 45 minutes away. And so I work on mostly people that are working in these offices. They're downtown during the week, and they're busy, and they have a lot going on. And essentially what they want is they want to be able to do chiropractic. They want to be able to get healthy, get the results they're looking for, without having it take time away from their family, without having it take time away from their life. A lot of people get done at 5 o'clock. They don't want to think about having to drive and go to the chiropractor and catch the chiropractor before they get home, or, they get home to their wife and kids and they need to do stuff. They don't have time to then go leave and go. So it allows them to work it into their workday. Yeah. And we kind of gear everything in our office to that professional, where if they want to run over between meetings and get their adjustment or get their treatment in, we'll make it happen. We do a lot of flexible scheduling. We do a lot of things to like really set up for that. And it works just fantastic for the people that are down here.
So that's interesting because, my one practice before Collins, we do chiropractic biophysics, which is visits can take longer.
Yep.
And that's the biggest barrier people sometimes with their professionals, and I see mostly professionals, is time. But like you're down here, you're working in downtown Denver. Maybe initially you may come in something that's bothering you, but you may realize, hey, this is actually, I just do better when I'm under chiropractic care. But it's not a big time burden. So they can
Exactly.
come here hopping, get their treatment, go back, be tuned up.
Exactly.
So that was like, I think that's really cool for your niche and probably identifying that, because I know some people that were down here and they had practices where the visits were probably longer and they didn't recover after COVID. And I'm wondering that maybe that influenced them with their demographic. It was another big barrier to overcome.
100%. It's very niche specific. And even just how practices build down here is really different because again, you don't have your families here. So if you're excited about chiropractic, you're telling your coworkers, you're telling your people that you work with. You don't necessarily have your wife or your kids, your aunts, your uncles, your people in your family that you may live by. You're going to be down here with your work family. So again, that's where we kind of gear towards. A lot of people come with their coworkers. They'll come as a group. They'll come with 3 or 4 people together, and it's just part of their Tuesday routine where, hey, they go get adjusted. And it's almost kind of a joke for a lot of the offices down here where, hey, we don't know what's wrong with you. We don't know what's going on with you. What's your attitude like today? Come with us to the chiropractor. Like, let's figure this out. And I get referrals where somebody just doesn't fit into an office culture because of maybe something they're dealing with or something that's going on. And as you know, and as you've seen, chiropractic helps your attitude, it helps your stress levels, it helps your mood, and it just really helps you be a better version of yourself. So,
Well, and there's nothing, I think people have this idea that, manual labor, and yes, there's those traumas with physical stuff, but sitting at a desk all day is probably more long-term traumatic to your body and does more damage to you than being out and digging a ditch all day.
100%. I will.
People come in and they'll be like, "How did I get here?" It's like, "Oh, you do this all day."
And I'm sure you've seen this, but it's really interesting when you're digging a ditch and you hit something and you feel your back twinge. It's really easy to understand how you hurt yourself and how this happened. When you have been sitting at a desk for 20 years and then one day your arm goes numb and you can't turn your head, that doesn't make sense for a lot of people. It's really hard for them to understand that, hey, I've had no pain before. I've never had this issue. How did nothing happen? We look at my x-rays. I have no curve in my neck. I have no posture. I have arthritis and degeneration, and I've never felt it until this moment. It's really hard for people to understand that. And then it's really frustrating for them because, as you know, they got a long treatment journey in front of them. It's not a quick, simple, easy, hey, let's just do this and everything's going to go away. You got to make some big major changes in order to get your health back.
Yeah, I think this guy Scott Dawkins wrote a book, Sitting on the Job, and I heard reading his books, he talked about this talk he gave, and before he gave his talk, he had everyone take their shoes off and put them on the opposite feet and get up and walk around. I had him really focus on what they felt, and he's like, now imagine doing that for 20 years. Like, what do your feet look like? What happens to your spine when you sit hunched over all the time and you don't get up and move?
It's a great analogy.
So,
oh, that's awesome.
Now I'm curious. I think in Colorado during COVID, we didn't get hit as hard as some states. And I think if you kind of laid low, you could still practice to some degree. However, if your employees aren't, or if your patients are not working and they're not going to work, I perceive that in downtown Denver, you probably got hit harder than most people that were running businesses. So can you talk about what was that like for you being down here in basically 16th Street Mall, running a business, going through COVID, and how has it been like the recovery afterwards? Or what was it like going through that?
First of all, like for most people, it was scary. You didn't know what was happening. We didn't know what it was going to look like. And in downtown Denver, it's an interesting place in that you have a melting pot of lots of different personalities, lots of different like spectrums of people. And in Colorado, as you know, there was a kind of a gray area on whether or not you were considered allowed to be open, whether you were supposed to close. And
I was on some forums where chiropractors kept asking the door, and I'm like, just shut up, like lay low and do your thing.
Do your thing, right?
Well, don't raise your hand, just like be quiet.
Yes, and so the interesting part for me was there was this option for some people to lay low. I couldn't really do that because the people who were signing there was one of the notices through Dora. And that name on the bottom was a patient of mine. So that was somebody who was coming into my office. And so I was working on the people making these rules, making these laws.
Literally, the wolf and the fox in the chicken's den.
I mean, you couldn't write it up any better.
And perception. Did they ever say anything, or how did they look at it? Or they just follow?
They were following orders. I tried to get information. I said, hey, I called these people up and I said, what is this? What does this mean for me? And what should I do? I knew, we need to take care of people. Like, people can't just negate their chiropractic. They can't just stop doing this kind of stuff.
Chiropractic bloomed back in one of the eras with the swine flu. People don't realize that. It was
100%.
Like 1914 or 18 or 17,
Yep.
one of the big Hispanic swine flu, where people were basically not getting relief anywhere else, and they were going to chiropractic. They were getting benefits, boost immune system and things like that. But
people, if I understand correctly, people were told to go home and die, and they decided to go to the chiropractor, and they lived.
Yeah, and they survived. So it's just a different philosophy. It's like, we know chiropractic is about being healthy, and you should always be. It's like, you can't say you're treating that, but if things aren't going good, it's even more important to just do whatever you can to maximize your health.
Let's get the system as healthy as it can be so you can handle the stresses that are coming your way.
Absolutely.
Whether that's a virus, whether that's a job, whether that's whatever it is, the healthier your system is, the better you're going to handle what comes your way.
Yeah. 100%. Cool.
So just to follow up on that, so we closed for a while. I want to say it was 3 to 4 weeks where I did not do anything. We did not do any patients. We did not see anybody. And then we opened back up, and I think the first week I worked 3 days, and I think I saw 32 patients, and we kind of have just built back up off of that and built back up to where we are today, and had to make some changes and some interesting shifts with our practice. But essentially, how we built the practice in the beginning, we essentially had to start over because a lot of our patients had left and were gone, and
maybe their job became permanently remote.
Their job became remote. They moved from Colorado. There was, you name it, I heard the story, like every single possible situation that you can come up with, we saw it. And I had people that were banging down the door, ready to come back, ready to go, and we were so excited to see them. I had people who it took them months and years to come back, and they had different perspective. There's a lot of interesting stuff that happened. And then, as you noted, like the chiropractic scene in downtown changed pretty dramatically through there. There was, I want to say 6, 7, 8 people down here, and now there's only 1 or 2. So there's definitely a lot of shift because you had to know where your patients were coming from. You had to know how to reach people. You had to know how to connect and communicate. And if you didn't have that built up, it was hard to come in contact with people because it was just a different situation down here. So
yeah, interesting. One thing I always love to ask people is, can you think of one story? Do you have a patient success or experience that you think of that really sticks in your mind?
Yeah,
I have lots of them.
I got lots of them. One of my favorite stories that just immediately pops into my mind when you ask that question is a guy named Jeff, who I met at a home and garden show. I did a long weekend, doing the screening events, and it was terrible, and there was nobody there. And I met this one guy who, he came up and he said, I have no symptoms. What could chiropractic possibly do for me? Mm-hmm. Which in a screening, you tend to like to find people that have something going on. That's what they understand. This guy literally walked up to me, and he was probably 60 years old, and said, I have no symptoms. What could you possibly do for me? And same thing, it kind of comes back, that same theme. I said, hey, maybe your spine isn't as healthy as you think it is. Maybe your nervous system isn't as working as good as you think it is. And maybe what you think is 100% is actually only 70%. What if we could find what it would look like to be better? And whatever reason, he said, okay, I'll do your little thing. He signed up, he came in, and I adjusted him we did a treatment plan. I never thought he would sign up. We found all of the stuff in his spine. He starts getting better. He starts coming in. He sends his wife. He sent his kids. He sent everybody he knew. He sent dozens of people into our office. And then
that's how that works sometimes.
It's always how it goes.
Person is the person that has the biggest breakthroughs or becomes the best patient or sends you the most people to help.
It's always how it goes. And his main area, which I think is really interesting, was T3, T4. So we always talked about heart and lungs as a big nerve supply area there. And he didn't have any issues there, but he always talked about that. And he always asked me, how's my T3, T4 doing? And so I had adjusted him for years at this point. And he came in and I was busy. Everything was full. All the tables were full. There was people everywhere. And he had a loud voice. He said, Dr. Kroese, I need to talk to you. And just stood in the middle of the room. And I was adjusting. I finished adjusting the patient. And I come out and he said, last time you got a room full of people. Last time you adjusted me, I went home and not an hour later, I had a heart attack. And I go, oh no, don't say this here. Like, what did I do? Did I do something wrong? I'm like, let's go talk in a room. He goes, no, I need to say this here. And I just go, okay, lay it on me. Let me have it.
This is going to be a good.
I'm like, oh gosh, what's about to happen? I've seen a lot of stuff, but this one I wasn't ready for. And he goes, you adjusted me 1 hour before my heart attack. And he goes, I know that if I hadn't gotten adjusted right before, I wouldn't be alive right now. And he gave me a big old hug and he started crying and said that in front of a room full of people, all the stuff. And everybody got kind of quiet. And it was just one of the most magical experiences. And it was interesting that for me, it was, as a chiropractor, kind of full circle coming back. I had to kind of talk him into chiropractic when he was first coming in. I had to show him what it could maybe do. And then in the end, I was sitting there worried about what he was thinking, what went wrong. And he had to kind of tell me in reverse, hey, this saved my life. And this did what I needed to.
Do you know what's interesting about that? I remember our neurology teacher, Mrs. Mary Tushner, super, super smart. Her background's a neurologist, and she's teaching us neurology, and she's a chiropractor too. She became a chiropractor after starting to teach neurology at a chiropractic school. And she gave us this scenario. Let's say, you're working on someone or you're with someone and they are having a heart attack. What do you do? And everyone's like, well, you call this? And it's like, yeah, but do you adjust them? And everyone's like, no, yes, no, like I don't want to say no and be like, what do you mean you're a chiropractor? And that's like, What do you mean you're adjusting them? Giving them. And she's like, yeah, I would adjust them. I would adjust the cervical spine, vagus nerve, get the body back into, reduce the fight or flight. And she's like, I would do all the merge stuff. She goes, I'd absolutely adjust them.
That's awesome.
Like, okay.
That's so cool.
So if I ever get in a situation, like, it's what I was told to do at school.
Absolutely. And it's interesting to think about because you kind of don't put yourself in that situation unless you've thought about it before.
It's not going to cause any harm, but it could potentially help. It can relax.
Could save their whole life.
It puts them back, everyone, into rest and relaxation.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know what? One of the things that I think about, at school like here, we do one really specific thing. We specialize cerebral scoliosis, the hyperkyphosis. One of my mentors that helped me and coaching over the years was Dr. Brad Galacki.
Yep.
He's known for really helping people in the corporate wellness world and doing like corporate speaking and things like that. But he always had a phrase, people think about, professional athletes but he said, there's also corporate athletes. And that's what I think of when you talk about your practice, knowing you're downtown Denver.
100%.
And you actually treated professional athletes for a while. You had a stint where you were actually working with the Colorado Rapid.
Sir.
As the chiropractor treating professional athletes, but now you're treating really corporate athletes. It seems like a lot of time in your practice. Would that be a way to put it?
That's 100% accurate.
Because they have that. It's not just about pain, but they have to perform well too. It'd be interesting if you surveyed your patients, like if you looked at the last 30 minutes or an hour of your day, your focus, your productivity, how it was going before you came in. You get adjusted and you go back. How's that hour or so immediately after? I bet people would report a big difference.
100%. And one of the things we talk about with especially our maintenance patients that are seeing us after initial treatment is we use getting adjusted to kind of reset the energy in their day. So I'll have people where, hey, they just don't have it. They're not feeling it, for whatever reason, they woke up on the wrong side of the bed. And we do a lot of shifting appointments and shifting schedules to accommodate for this. But I'll have people where they'll show up on a Wednesday morning going, hey, doc, I just don't have it today. And we'll do an adjustment. We'll get them taken care of. They'll go back. I'll see them maybe the next week and they go, hey, thank you so much for Wednesday. Like that was just what I needed. That reset me. And I had a great day after that. So it's very much a real thing in our office.
Awesome. And so you guys are kind of in a unique building. First of all, you were pointing out on the way up here, this was one of the older buildings. Like how old is the building this is in?
1891.
So older than chiropractic.
Older than chiropractic.
By 4 years, 1895. Right?
I think so. Yeah. Don't quote me on that, but it's older than chiropractic. Yes. I've done the math.
So talk about just the space you guys are in and where you're located.
Yeah, so we're right in the heart of downtown. It's an old school building. It's got a cool energy, a cool vibe to it. It's actually an old Masonic building that's made it through. I think downtown burned down a number of times, at least once, and it made it through all of that. So it's got some of the old school, kind of quirks and all of that, but we're right on the renovated mall. We look out over top of it. We got big, beautiful glass windows where we can just kind of see the energy of what's all happening. And it's fantastic. We love it down here.
So, who is an ideal patient for your clinic in your mind? Like if someone's watching this, maybe they work in downtown Denver, they're not sure, they're looking around, like who would be like, this is the person that would fit perfectly in our practice?
Absolutely. So the ideal patient is going to be a 40-year-old person that is working downtown, and I would say typically in the accounting, the legal, or the financial world, and they've been down here, they got something going on, something that they're noticing that they haven't been able to address. Typically our patients are working out, they're running, they're skiing, they're very active, and something in their health is not letting them do that, and kind of our bread and butter is helping them get back to that without disrupting their life and without messing up their schedules and their routines and their days.
So if you're a healthcare professional that works in downtown Denver, health is a priority, but you probably spend a lot of time, you have to be active, but you probably spend a lot of time
sitting,
being sedentary, and you're wanting to take care of yourself, like this is the place to go.
We got you.
Yeah. So how do people go about finding you guys in your practice?
Couple of things. We're online. You can find us everywhere. You can look our Google reviews. You can see all of our stuff that way. You may walk by if you work downtown here. We have a lot of people that just stop by and say, "Hey, I'd like to come in and set up an appointment. I've been walking past here for years." You can call us. All of our information's online. Just look up 5280 Chiropractic and you'll find us.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad we did this because I knew the previous owner. I think when we were talking, he actually got into chiropractic biophysics at one point.
Absolutely.
I had not known you. And I can tell you, like I mentioned you, and I walked in here, you have a great receptionist. I always look at offices and how people are graded. So I'm sure people are not only going to get great treatment, but I feel confident we're going to have a great experience coming.
Absolutely.
So thanks for being on our show.
Hey, I appreciate you.
You bet.